How would you like to learn the secrets of two Karma Club Award winners on how they have built successful online businesses from almost nowhere to now running multiple 7 and 8 figure businesses by following the simple fundamentals of life? And let's see how they have used the powerful funnel systems, processes, automation, and social media to help their business grow at a different pace. Let's dive into their journey to grasp the strategy, mindset, action plan of how they have done it from almost nowhere to the way up to 7 figures. We are going to uncover and pick their brains of the top performing entrepreneurs on this show. How they have done it and how you can do it too. You are listening to the Nikhil Sai, the host, and welcome to the Nikhil Sai show.
What's going on? What's going on? Everyone who's actually listening to this podcast right now. First of all, guys, welcome to the Nikhil Sai Show, which is hosted by me, the Nikhil Sai. And guess what's going on today? We're back with another amazing guest today. This is going to be a crazy, amazing podcast. Just make sure to stick around, guys. Today we're having a 2CCX winner. This is going to be an absolute amazing journey. I mean, if you're someone who's a business owner, you've always been learning more about marketing techniques and billboard ads and newspaper ads and whatnot, right? Today we're having the digital billboard guy in the entire US. This is going to be crazy journey once again, guys. Today we're having one of the craziest guests. I mean, if you look at his portfolio companies, there are multiple companies under his belt. For example, he is the CEO of Legion Digital Outdoor, Mr. Car Shipper, Lead Innovation, Legion Franchise Group, and also he's into real estate. Crazy, right? Legion Properties. So, guys, this is going to be amazing. If you are someone who likes to understand how to acquire, enterprise level companies, how would you like to leverage, funnels inside your business? This is going to be an amazing podcast today. So, yeah, let's not waste any time and actually let's welcome Jerry Teeter, CEO at Legion Enterprise. Hey, Jerry.
How are you doing?
Doing great, brother. Absolutely. Thanks for joining us today.
All right. Well, I'm glad to be here, and thanks for having me on.
Yep, absolutely, brother. I mean, yeah, Jerry. I mean, you've been in the market from a long time. Like you started your business over 20 years ago. You've been to multiple different jobs and stuff like that. So, can you please start with the backstory, Jerry? Like, how did all of this craziness started?
So, I've always kind of been entrepreneurial. When I was even in middle school, I earned
Mm-hmm.
money mowing lawns, had my own lawn care service. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Through high school, I started working in a local hardware store, and that was probably one of my first mentors that just kind of helped me get into business and teach me how business works. And that was kind of really the point that I decided that I wanted to own my own business. And
Mm-hmm.
so, really, I started my first real business when I was 21. I was Mr. Back then it was Teeter Auto Transport, but car shipping. And I was working at a car dealership, and just wanted to get out on my own and wanted to do something with cars. I was working on the finance side of the car dealership, so we worked with different car haulers and stuff, and saw a need there. So,
Mm-hmm.
when I started, I bought the truck and the trailer, and I was out there actually driving it. Did that
Wow.
for a few years. Got a broker's license. That was right around the time eBay Motors was first coming out, and this whole idea of shipping a car or buying a car online, sight unseen, was just a crazy idea that people thought was dumb and would never last. And I really saw the potential in it. With the internet, was just really starting to make a big, change the way people did business. And so, that's over the course of a few years, we sold off our equipment, transitioned to brokering, and focused more on that national car shipping all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And for years, it was in the car dealership, online car sales, that type of world. But
Mm-hmm.
back in about 2012, we went through a business cycle. We had a large client closed down and stuck us with just a huge amount of receivables. 6 months later, a second one did the same thing, and so ultimately we had to close our doors for a small period of time while we regrouped and essentially relaunched from scratch back in 2012, and
Wow.
that's where we got into the moving industry. And so for the last almost 9 years, we're pretty much exclusively in the moving industry. So like Pods and UPack and 1-800 Pack Rat, all the self moving companies, they refer their customers to us to get their car shipped when they're, as part of their moves. So uh, that,
Wow.
that's 20
Wow.
years kind of in a small nutshell.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Jerry. Yeah, that was pretty interesting on actually transitioning from like one man show to actually becoming an entire company who is like one of the top, having all the affiliates and partners in the industry who are referring you like crazy. Yeah, that was a beautiful journey, brother. Let's get to the next question. I think this should be very, very interesting. I mean, you have been one of the top actually MDD trucks in the in the US, right? You have been actually creating digital billboards all over the US and helping international clients. And most people, especially in the times of funnels and marketing and all of this stuff like online Facebook ads and all of the jazz, we would love to hear like how does billboards really impact and how to do it effectively.
So, one of the biggest things I've learned through this whole thing is, about 3 years ago, I got introduced into the ClickFunnels world, and that's where um, really my marketing experience truly started taking off. Up until that point, we were running these mobile billboard trucks for about 4 or 5 years, and up until that point, is just customers hire us to put an ad on the truck. They're producing the ad, we're running the route, and that's really it. And it's only been in the last 2 or 3 years that I've really been taking this experience I've learned from Russell Brunson, and starting to get into Dan Kennedy a lot more, and just all these amazing marketers, and applying uh, their teachings and direct response marketing, and applying it to our media of delivering the ads. But then taking it one step further and engaging those customers to get into an online funnel to then produce an actionable result, whether that's a lead or a sale. Um, a couple of years ago, I ran across a study that Nielsen Ratings did, where they found that the number one way to drive an online action is through an out-of-home billboard. So, in
Wow.
terms, yeah, in terms of cost and effectiveness, it costs almost 10 times more to run a TV ad to get the same online result as it does billboards. It beats radio, it beats print. And so, again, if you're wanting your customer to do something online, then an out of home billboard is the best way to get them there to create that action.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. We didn't know that like 10 times it costs extra to do other medias and it's cheaper on billboard. That's pretty interesting, brother. And Jerry, like one of the things you've been doing is while you're actually running billboard ads, I think billboard is more like, a high budget bulk kind of thing, right? Like only higher level companies can afford it. Of course, local business can do it too, but there is a certain level, right? And you've been very successful when it comes to especially helping Fortune 500 companies to get more reach through digital billboard ads. Can you talk a little bit more about like how did you acquire these Fortune 500 companies as clients, and how did the ball roll in the initial phases?
Yeah. So when I started these billboards back in 2014, there were only about less than 2 dozen of these trucks in the entire country. So we were very early on in this process.
Wow.
At that point, none of the majors were really using the digital mobile billboards. Regular mobile billboards, those skinny ones that you see like in Vegas and
Mm-hmm.
Miami, they've been around for since the 70s. But the digital piece of it was very, very new at that point. And so, I spent the first year running the business just here locally, trying to get my feet wet, learning the business. But then about a year in, I wanted to really go after the national companies. And so, it was truly a lot of, old fashioned cold calling, um, trying to get at least in touch with some of these people. And then ultimately, what
Mm-hmm.
got us our first job was we had a truck out in New York City, and I took some time to physically drive the truck downtown Manhattan and meet with a couple of the larger agencies that represented at that time Budweiser. And so about a month later, we got our first Anheuser-Busch job, and they've been a client of ours ever since. So, same thing there. Just really taking the truck and showing the person, the agencies in person, because again, it's no matter how many pictures you see or videos you see on the internet, you don't understand the experience until you're right there in front of it and can actually see it. And every time the response is always the same. It's like, man, it's bigger than I thought. It's brighter than I thought. It's more attention grabbing than what they ever imagined.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, it's all about like delivering the outcome to your potential clients. That's when they actually become clients, right? That's a beautiful message right there, Jerry.
Right.
Yeah, and yeah, like the traditional billboards, I think they are like sticky. They're just right there. They're not that bright, attractive, or not eye catching. But when it comes to a digital one, they're bright, they're attractive, they're popping. They have some video on. I think that really stands out, which is pretty interesting. And yeah, you had the first mover advantage too, which is pretty amazing. And Jerry, one of the things you have done a very great job at is actually scaling your franchise business too, right? So can you talk a little bit more about like how to actually scale up a franchise business while you're actually running other businesses too? It's pretty hard to manage.
Yeah, so we're actually in the early stages of our franchise. We just got
Mm-hmm.
our legal paperwork done a few months ago, and so it's something I've actually been thinking about for a couple years now. But just really, the pandemic is really what pushed us into it. Interestingly enough, when the beginning of March a year ago, 2020, we were booked
Mm-hmm.
out about 4 months, and within 10 days, we had 100% contract loss because everything we do is centered around either events or where there's crowds of people. And so with
Yeah.
everything shutting down, it was one of the first times in advertising history all the advertisers just pulled back and essentially shut off all their advertising. And so
Mm-hmm.
across the board, out of home just it just took a huge dive. And so um, you know our franchise model, it focuses more on that local model, local businesses, and it's not so reliant on the big Fortune 500 companies. And so that's really what I was looking for when I started the franchise, was we want to develop that stability of working with a bunch of local businesses rather than these one or two big fish that provide a huge amount of our business. And
Yeah.
so, going back to your earlier point, you mentioned that it's historically not been affordable for small businesses. Um, this new franchise model, it does make it affordable. So, you know, we're
Wow.
we're very our price point is very competitive with traditional billboards, down to
Mm.
a couple $1,000s a month in most places. So, instead of spending $20,000 to $25,000 for exclusive use.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, Jerry. Yeah, I think that's really lucrative, especially for you as the actual creator of this franchise. At the same time, for the actual consumers or your clients, right? It's much easier, and I believe the diversification is really important. Like when difficult times occur and you need that shift, right? And we're glad that you made that move, brother. And Jerry, let's get to the next question. This would be pretty interesting to answer. I mean, you've been pretty rapidly scaling, and you won the 2CCX, right? Can you talk a little bit more about like launching the OOH funnels? Like, what does the OOH means? How does that work?
Yeah, so that's kind of the what came out of my journey with my car shipping company. So my two CCX orders with our car shipping company, and that's what got me into the ClickFunnels world. I was looking for just ways to grow my company, and I was really frustrated with my current website at the time. We were on Wix, and it was just having a lot of issues. And so 2019, I think, is when we really got launched into ClickFunnels, just changing our page structure and everything. We went from converting about 8 to 10% of our total website traffic was requesting a lead from us. Within
Mm-hmm.
6 months of getting on ClickFunnels and all the ways that they teach you to do a page and everything, and since then, we maintain between 55 and 70% of our web traffic is filling out a lead on our website.
Wow.
And so,
Wow.
just going through that and learning that whole process, when I wanted to start implementing this stuff in our billboard company, that's what I was looking for. Is how do we? I've got a media that is very noticeable. People see it.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we translate that into actual leads and sales? And so that's where the whole out of home funnel system is it's more than just a billboard on a truck. It's that's just the traffic driver, but the content of the ad pushes them to an online sales funnel, then the sales funnel produces um, that lead or sale. And so that's the whole point of the funnel, is we want to be more than just displaying your ad. We want to actually help the businesses grow through an
Yeah.
actionable.
True, Jerry. Yeah, that's beautiful. I think like a lot of traditional billboards, right? Even digital billboards, most of the actual producers, right? All they do is just display the brand name, logo, branding, a cool image. That's it. But you are
Yeah.
transitioning the traffic into more like a call to action, like, hey, check out my funnel, and they come through a funnel. You're actually delivering the leads and sales, which is pretty interesting. And I think that conversions are really important, especially for business owners who are spending on advertising to make an ROI. That's interesting, brother. And Jerry, we would love to learn more about. I mean, you started to use funnels from like 8-10% roughly to 50%. That's like 5x on your lead generation already, which is pretty amazing, right? And you've been scaling rapidly as you started using funnels, more leads, more clients, more demand in your market, right? So how was the journey of actually scaling 8 figures, in your car dealership, in your car shipping business within just a small short of time?
Yeah, so it's been interesting. Running a $1 or $2 million a year business is much different than running a 4, 5, and $6 million a year business. And so,
Yeah.
um, you know, your team around you becomes extremely important. And I think that's one thing that I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with is they have such a hard time essentially firing themselves and extricating themselves from
Mm-hmm.
being the business to putting a team in place to run all that from them. And so that's in my car shipping business. That's where we've really focused a lot is building a really great team. I've got a good leadership
Wow.
team, and then that leadership team is developing the day-to-day workers. And so in my car shipping business, I don't spend a ton of time in it each day. I'm more at the high level working with the funnel strategy and the overall strategy,
Wow.
and then I've got just an awesome team that runs it day to day. And so
Wow.
a majority of my time now is developing this franchise system, getting that up and going. And um, so but I can't remember who has the table, but I saw a graph where each stage of a business from startup to 100,000 a year, 500,000 a year, a million, all the way up to $1 billion a year. You know, every phase has different stages that you go through, and
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
it's when I saw that, it's like,
Maybe
man,
it's a
that's
billionaire code by Alex Sharford. He has
yeah.
all of that stuff you speak. Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful, Jory. I mean, just curious to know more about like like when you're actually trying to hire a key leader because you're trying to fire yourself as the CEO for that specific task, right? What kind of key components or key things you actually look at while you're hiring like a special person who can be contributor in your team?
Yeah, I mean, really, I'm looking at the person, their character, their values. Our belief is we can train the job function. So we hire based on the person more than the job skill or the resume. And so,
Hmm.
especially in my leadership team, I'm looking for those people who just have that natural tendency to teach people, to lead them. Um, that really share a lot of my same values that I share. So, we don't have that conflict of, I want things done a certain way, they're doing a different way. So, just finding people. Frankly, a lot of it are people that I've either knew or were referrals of people that I know, we have a fair amount of family in our business. So, just taking existing relationships we've had and then bring those into the
Mm-hmm.
business world.
Wow, that's beautiful, Jerry. Appreciate you mentioning that, brother. And Jerry, like running a eight-figure business, it's not as easy as it sounds, right? And
No,
not
not at all.
as cool as it sounds too, right? Absolutely. So, like, you have a lot of things moving around. You're in commercial real estate too. You run, a Legion Enterprise, Lead Innovations, and you have a Mr. Car Shipper. Everything together, right? A lot of teams to handle and a lot of processes. So, can you talk a little bit more about like the tools you use to kind of manage your projects, your clients, your productivity? How does that look like?
Yeah, so that's I'm always searching for different softwares and stuff out there that we can use. I'm kind of a technology junkie, so I like trying new things.
Wow.
With our car shipping company, we're actually um, making that transition from using an off-the-shelf software customer management system to actually having our own custom built. So we're about 9 months into that project. Um,
Wow.
And so, interestingly enough, we're supposed to be launching that here in about 90 days. The software we've been using for 15 years now just sent out an email December 1st saying they were closing their software down at the end of the month, and we have 30 days to get a different solution. And so that has sped up our timeline. And I think that's going back to the previous question. As you start getting in, growing and getting bigger, the
Mm-hmm.
off-the-shelf solutions no longer work as much as they did when you were smaller, and so you start needing a lot more customized, um, you know, systems, softwares, like everything about it needs to start becoming more customized to your business, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the stage we're in now. Is we're just taking that first step into that.
Yeah, that's pretty beautiful. So you're customizing tools to remove all of those little inefficiencies and take more of things internally, so you have more control over it. That's beautiful, Jerry. We are very happy to see the transition you're actually making to rely more on yourself, on your business. That's interesting. And
Yeah.
Jerry, like, are you a daily routine nerd? How does that look like? Do you personally follow any routines?
I'm not. Probably the biggest routine I have is a couple years ago I started working out in the morning. First thing, I am
Mm-hmm.
not a morning person at all. I hate getting up early, but that was literally the only time of day that I could be consistent with it. And so um, I would say that's probably become my most consistent time of my day. I wish I
Mm-hmm.
was more organized. I like organization, but like a lot of entrepreneurs, I really struggle with it. So
Mm-hmm. So
and
how does your typical day looks like? Like when you from your start to like the end, how does that flow?
so typically, I get up, I work out, come home, take my kids to school, and then usually have about an hour or so where I just kind of I'll do some reading or that's kind of my social media time a little bit first thing in the morning. But then in the mornings, later in the morning, I get to the office and just kind of doing what needs to be done right now. Most of my meetings I typically try to schedule between 11 and 1, and then
Mm-hmm.
I find my most productive time in getting actual work done that I need to is mid to late afternoons into the early evenings. And so um, the rub has become, in my early years, the work kind of took precedence over the family. And so I had to learn that work life balance so my family didn't suffer. And so I've had to try to cut the evening work back as much as I can. But really, for me, like my optimal work time is between like 2:30 and 5 o'clock to just really be in the zone and get things done.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you're an evening person, not a morning person, not a night person. You're an evening person. That's
Yeah.
interesting, Joey. Yeah.
But the getting up
Let's go
early
to the
for the
next.
gym forces me to go to bed early, so it's got me all off.
Yeah, that's interesting, brother. Let's get to the next question. I mean, Jerry, you've been in business for a long time, with the car shipper, car dealership in the early of your journey, right? If there's an opportunity to talk to a 20-year-old yourself or someone who's just getting started right now, what will be your number one suggestion for them?
You know, I would say just really loving what you do. I- if you don't love it, it just becomes a job. And there's so much risk involved in this that there's no point in doing it if you don't just really love it. For me, it's not work. I love coming to work every day. I like doing what I do. I like the different challenges and just every nothing's the same every day. And so
Hmm.
just really um, I see a lot of people start a business that are in the trades. So if they're a plumber, they start their own plumbing business. But just because you can do the job doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be great at running that as a company. And so if you do want to start your own business, but you're not good on the business side of it, bring in a partner that is good on the business side, so then you can focus um, on doing the actual work. But again, just if you don't love what you're doing, don't start a business in it because essentially you're just buying yourself a job.
Yeah, that's a beautiful message. I think a lot of entrepreneurs need to really, really take this inside their head and they should really think over it, right? Like that's a really beautiful message. I appreciate that, brother. And yeah, Jerry, let's get to the next question. You've been in business for a long time and you worked with all of these enterprise level companies. One of the first few clients you acquired was one of the agents when it comes to Budweiser. That's a huge company too. Can you talk a little bit more about like your life's biggest achievement so far and any next bigger goals with your business?
Man, if we're looking at life in general, my oldest daughter just graduated this year, so it's
Congratulations.
thank you. Really, the older I'm getting, and the more I'm seeing my kids develop, the more I'm seeing that as much bigger achievements than anything I could achieve here in my career. From a career standpoint, though, winning the 2CCX award this year was, that's something that when I joined the ClickFunnels community a couple years ago, I saw that as like you know, not really untouchable, but a ways out there, and it came a lot quicker than what I thought it
Wow.
would. So Just being part of that community, getting into Russell's Inner Circle program this year, getting an invite for that was just a huge honor. And I'm already learning a lot from just the community of people that's inside that. And so yeah, it, I would say though that I truly enjoy seeing like my middle daughter. She's my mini me, and she loves business, and so
Wow.
helping her get her business thing started, I get more joy from that than anything that I accomplish here in my own businesses.
Wow, that's interesting, Jerry. All the best to her too. Hopefully, she'll be big. She'll be making big businesses too, just like you. That should be
Yeah.
pretty interesting. Yeah, yeah. Congratulations on that. Let's get to the next question, brother. And again, let's get to the question. This would be very interesting to answer. Like, what was the biggest mistake in your life so far, especially in terms of business? Anything you look back and say, that's a big learning.
Yeah, I would say pricing. For the first probably 10 years of our business, I was
Mm-hmm.
so focused on just earning that top revenue number, and but I never really paid attention to our profit margin and to the numbers underneath the total revenue. And so at our peak, we were up doing $2.5 million a year, but the business was broke, because we didn't have enough margin, and we were pricing it as a commodity. And so again, the last 3 years, learning everything I've learned in all of the training we've done, I've learned how to properly price things, how to properly watch margins. And so it's created a much healthier business for us to continue to grow.
That's a great lesson, Jerry. Yeah, I think that really kind of helps a lot of people understand. So, guys, if you're running a business, it's not just about revenues, it's more about profits. Revenue is great. You scale, you get more clients, but make sure that you have profits too to fund your upcoming events of the business, right? That's a
Absolutely.
beautiful lesson, Jerry. I appreciate you mentioning that. And, Jerry, let's say hypothetically, there's an option for you. You change your name just right now, you just left everything and you started all over. How would you do differently?
I would probably sell my time. Everything I would do would be based on time rather than being in a business that's asset heavy or people heavy. I would take the knowledge I've learned and probably
Mm-hmm.
focus more in like the consulting world or coaching or something like that. But digital assets, stuff that uh, like our billboard company, that's an extremely asset heavy business. It right now, so like a big example, um, the automotive chip shortage is massively affecting our ability to be able to sell franchises because I can't get chassis to build on to then turn around and sell to our customers. And so there's so many
Mm.
pieces in the supply chain that I have no control over. I would definitely find and pick a business that doesn't have all those pieces in it to where I'm either the fail or success of it.
Yeah, I think that's a more predictable way to build your business because when you have a lot of moving parts, it's hard to manage and it's hard to scale too, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
that's interesting, Jerry. Appreciate you mentioning your thoughtfulness here. And yeah, brother, as an entrepreneur, right? Like we go into different emotions and different waves in the business. We feel good, we feel bad, we feel very devastated sometimes, right? So, what is your key motivation for the success? Like, what keeps you, revolute every day, and who are the key people involved in your journey?
Yeah, really for me, it's I mean, I like money, I like making money, but it's more about setting the goal and then exceeding it or moving past it. And so it's more of a game, I guess. That again, I'm not driven by the money, but it's a nice, it's a good way to keep score, I guess, is how I've heard it put. And so um, really, I enjoy learning. I love I didn't graduate college. I went to 1 year of college and then started the business. Um,
Wow.
I'm not a school learner, but I'm more of a life learner, and so I love
Hmm.
learning new techniques and being on the cutting edge of stuff. But it's just really just that continuing educating, and one thing that I've really tried to live by is knowing that I'm not the smartest guy in the room, and so just trying to see people that are smarter than me and see how they're doing it and learning from other people.
Yeah, wow, that's a beautiful mindset, Jerry. I think that's one of the fastest ways to shortcut all of the learning curve because your own mistakes can cost you a lot. You can hack someone else's mistakes and just implement what's working in your business and save tons of time and money and energy, right? That's
Yeah.
interesting, Jerry. Appreciate you mentioning that. And yeah, I mean, we have a 2CC X winner right now who is on the show today and he's been dropping crazy value. So, Jerry, do you have any mentoring options? Like, if someone need more help, someone wants to place billboard ads with you, someone needs to learn marketing tactics with you, how does that look like? Do you have any mentorship offering?
Yeah. My biggest mentor over the last 3 years has been Russell Brunson. And, I'm a huge fan of his. I honestly, when people start asking me a bunch of questions, business owners and stuff, I give them his book set, the Three Secrets book set. And I mean, there's so much value in those books, not only from marketing, but just how to essentially the framework of running a successful business. And so, huge fan of that. I'm just starting to discover Dan Kennedy and a lot of his stuff. And I mean, there's just so many amazing, um, people that have done this out there. Like I said, I love to learn, and so as I discover people, then I usually try to pass those on to people in my world that I'm talking to. So
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful, guys. Yeah, appreciate that, Jerry. Really interesting. So, guys, you know what to do. You already know Dan Kennedy. He's the king of marketing when it comes to, especially, direct consumer marketing, and Russell Brunson too. He's king of funnels too, right? That's
yeah.
interesting, Jerry. Appreciate you mentioning those guys. Any last word before we conclude the total podcast session for today?
No, this has been great. I like if my experiences can help people avoid, some of the mistakes I've made, then, I'm always happy to share those. So, I just encourage people as they grow and, start getting success, then turn around and, pass your successes on to other people and, become a mentor to other people. So,
Wow. Oh, that's a beautiful lesson, Jerry. So yeah, don't keep yourself the secret sauce, share it. That's how you make this world a better place. Appreciate you, Jerry. That was really, really beautiful message. So guys, you know what to do. You exactly learn how Jerry has built a eight-figure business using funnels and transition from a one driver of his own truck to actually building a big billboard company and multiple other companies under his enterprise. And you have learned all of his learning. So make sure to implement what you have learned today on this podcast in your business and tell us how did that go, and make sure to ping Jerry as well personally and share if you have liked the podcast so far. Once again, Jerry, thanks for this amazing opportunity. It was really, really pleasure having you on, and the beautiful message and the story you shared today has definitely inspired a lot of people who are actually listening to this podcast. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed the podcast time so far, so stay tuned for the next interview. I'll be coming back with another two Karma Club winner. This is me, the Nikhil Sai, and Jerry Teeter signing up for today. Peace. Bye, Jerry.
thanks.